History is a story of our struggle for power, a sordid catalogue of various attempts at ideological dominance. The existence of other groups who may possibly hold beliefs different than our own is almost too much for the average person to bear. Agree or suffer the consequences, infidel, an idea common to all true believers throughout history. Being right in this climate doesn't count for much unless it's accompanied by the approval of the crowd. External validation is a treacherous pitfall of our social nature. In order to belong, we sometimes need to betray ourselves. Democracy has always been a popularity contest. We're subject to the tyranny of the majority, mob rule. Ironically, the prevailing consensus may not always accurately represent the majority's desires. On the road to serfdom, it is incumbent on the individual to intuit the socially acceptable answer when it comes to questions of personal freedom. Hold up your finger, not in defiance, but to see which way the wind is blowing. You fucking sheep. Terraform, to transform a planet so that it can support life, including this one. We have almost achieved the exact opposite since the advent of the Industrial Revolution. To ameliorate the damage, we'll need to instigate a revolution of a different kind. The type of saccharine, cliched, homespun change championed by spiritual teachers throughout the ages. An internal revolution, an awakening to our true nature, a liberation from suffering. We are living out the synthesis of all former systems.
At this hour, American and coalition forces are in the early stages of military operations to disarm Iraq, to free its people, and to defend the world from grave danger.
In some most likely imaginary golden age, the now dominant narrative once promised life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for all. There can be no doubt that the holy trinity of modernity, capitalism, scientific materialism, and liberal democracy have on balance improved the human condition. Yet many of the system's beneficiaries are far from happy. There is a distinct ennui that pervades most of modern society, a palpable dissatisfaction with the state of the world. History may indicate that this kind of disease is inherent to the human condition. When have we ever collectively been satisfied with anything? Our modern story may be the latest scapegoat in a long line of rejected grand narratives. It's always more convenient if it's something or someone else's fault. Regardless, new crises continue to emerge which validate asking the question, have we made the right decision? Did we zig when we should have zagged? Are we justified in seeking yet another story to make sense of our reality? Meanwhile, World War III looms, nuclear winter, terrorism, climate change, environmental degradation, AI, man-made pandemics, financial instability, political unrest. Judging by the record, the greatest threat to humanity's survival is humanity's continued survival, at least in this paradigm. These are existential threats that no other generation in history have ever faced. These are the fruits of our dominant narrative. In his book, 10 Million Aliens, Simon Barnes writes, all forms of life are equally valid. The beautiful, the bizarre, the horrific, the obscure, and the glorious. We humans are different from the rest in some ways, but only in some ways. One of these ways is our need for a myth to get us through the long night. A myth to carry us through the vast distances of interstellar space. A myth to transport us through the endless aeons of time in which life has been lived on Earth. A myth to reconcile us to our true evolutionary position, which is a cosmic afterthought. This passage was written from the perspective of our materialist culture. It assumes that we are insignificant in the grand scheme of things, but is that really true? We have reached a point where the system is failing us, where it feels right to question everything. Either way, Barnes's core claim is correct. We love a good story. Myths help us to make sense of life. Our world is made of stories. Terraform is an account of our attempts at creating a world where all life can flourish. It will trace our history. It will extrapolate our future. Its purpose is to understand the best way forward, which begins with understanding ourselves. Which of our stories will win? Which story should win? Is a win still a win if we blow ourselves up? History is the story of our struggle for power. We need to combine the right ideas with power so that we can all win.